Hi, this is Susan Canfield with SueStanfield.com. I wanted to share another fun Easter project for you that you can do for your family and friends for the Easter holidays. We have here our cute little chick, our little Easter chick, and inside he has a little egg crate that is holding a Cadbury cream egg, one of my son's favorite treats. So let me show you how this project goes together. Let's go ahead and get started with the egg crate portion of our project. So what I have is a piece of Daffodil Delight cardstock, and this is 2 inches wide, and actually it's slightly less than 2 inches wide, and it is 7.5 inches long. I've scored it at 3 inches and then at 4.5 inches. And then we're also going to be making a small box that's going to sit in this area here. And I'll give you those dimensions in just a moment. So we'll start with this piece, and we're going to take the scallop tag topper punch. By the way, this egg crate was created by Sandy McIver, who is another Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and she did ones that have some pretty florals on them. I'll put a link in the description for this video so you can check those out. I decided I wanted to do, you know how I love my punch art, so I wanted to do a little punch art chickie for my version. So I've got my cardstock stuck into my punch, and you want to stick it in all of the way so that it butts up to the end, and then you're just going to punch that out, flip it around, and repeat on the other side. And we'll just sweep those scraps off to the side for later. And I've got my piece here. So that portion that folds at the bottom is where we're going to be placing our little box, and the little box is what's going to hold our egg. In the base of the box there's a little hole that we're punching out, and that's where the egg sits in so that the candy doesn't fall out constantly. So let's move on to the lower portion. The lower portion, the dimensions are 2.5 inches by 3 inches, and then you're going to score it at 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. So I've done that all the way around. Your next step is you're going to actually cut out the 4 corners here, and each of the 4 corners has 4 little boxes, so that whole section gets cut out. And then you're going to take a pencil and a ruler. So I have my pencil and ruler here, and you're going to mark an X from corner to corner, and where that X meets in the center is going to be the center of the box, and that's going to be useful when you go in to punch that hole. I learned this trick from Sandy McIver, and it's a good one. So I have my 3/4 inch punch. I'm just going to unlock it here, and I'll slide it in. I like to slide it in upside down so I can see where I'm going. So can you see how that is lined up right in the center? That's where we're going to punch. And that the X that I've drawn is going to go down so that nobody sees that. It'll be on the inside of the box. So let me bring in my other piece here. This one I already cut out the 4 corners like we talked about, and I drew my X and punched out my center, and then I added a piece of sticky strip on each of the long sides. I'm going to fold the sides up, and I'm going to stick down the end onto that exposed sticky strip, and I'll repeat it with this end as well, and go over here and get these guys. So now this portion here is sticky, and so that's going to go right into the base of my outside portion of my egg crate. So I'll just stick that in. The reason I use sticky strip for 3D projects is it holds things together. It's a very, very good bond, a very strong bond, and it's not going to fall apart. So the only other piece we need to do on this is we're taking some of this yummy striped summer starfruit ribbon that's in the Occasions catalog, and we're going to pull that through. I believe this piece is 8 inches. I left it plenty long so that I could trim it off. And then I have a little piece of pumpkin pie 1/8 inch grosgrain ribbon here, and I'm just going to tie that in a knot. Just set it down here so that I can do that. Okay, and there we have our base. We're just going to take our ribbon scissors and we'll trim that down a little bit. But let me talk about how we build our little chick here. So the body of the chick is the 2 3/8 inch scallop circle punch, and that's also how I made the wings. So all I did is I took my paper snips, I punched a second one of these, and I just cut out a wedge about that size to make the wings. So I could get a number of these out of one scallop. So then the next step is to do some sponging. And we're going to take our sponge dauber and our Daffodil Delight ink pad here. And we're just going to load up. I love these little fingertip sponge daubers. They're awesome. You get 10 in a package and they last you a long time. So I'm just going to flick around the edges here. And that's going to give me some dimension on the body of my little peep. I'm just going to sponge around the edges of my little wing here. The advantage to doing the sponging is that when you're putting the same color on top of tone on tone look, that sponging helps give you some definition so that it stands out, kind of like a shadow. Let's walk through the rest of our chick real quick. Our beak is just a 1/2 inch square of pumpkin pie cardstock, and I scored it diagonally from corner to corner. So you just fold on that and that forms the little beak. The eyes are made with the owl punch, as you might have guessed. If you've watched my videos before, you know this is my go-to punch for punch art. And so I made the eyes. My favorite way to do the pupils for the eyes is to take my scrap of black cardstock, punch out the little tiny pupils. I don't know if you can see that. My paint is rubbing off my punch. I've used it so much. And then I go back in with the owl punch and I punch out the second part of the eye. I guess you would call that the iris of the eye. When I put my punch in, I lined it right up over the previous punch, and so that gave me that hole in this little circle. And then when I punch out the largest part of the eye on white, and I glue this on with a 2-way glue pen, it looks like the pupil of the eye is white. Does that make sense? So it's just a little easier than trying to punch out a little tiny white circle and glue that on. So I've made my eyes already here. I just layered them up. The eyelid portion also comes from this biggest circle, biggest eye on the owl punch. I just punched one and cut it in half, and I did do a little sponging around the edge on that. I did most of the assembly with glue dots. Got 2 more pieces I want to show you on here. These are the feet, and you might recognize this is the Petite Petal punch, which is a new punch in our Occasions catalog, and that makes perfect little feet for this guy. It's also the tuft, the feather tuft on the top of his head. So that is how our little chick goes together, and then I attached him to my project using some dimensionals, and if you can see those on there. Since the outside of the box curves a bit, I use the dimensionals because they're foam, and so they're going to curve with the box. And that is how you make your little Easter chick egg crate to hold the Cadbury cream egg. Thanks so much for stopping by today. The full supply list is at SueStanfield.com, and I also have the different measurements and score lines for the project. Thanks for stopping by. Have a happy Easter.